Hello. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another Thursday. That means another Carvers and Creators, a weekly demonstration and discussion with pumpkin carver sculptors and multi-talented artists from around the world. First, we ask that you give us a like and a follow on the platform you're watching us on. Let us know in the comments where you're watching from and if you have any questions for the Carvers and our special guest. Let's meet the Carvers.
Oh boy.
Let's do it. First, he's an artist and sculptor from Boston, Massachusetts. He's a judge on season 3 of Outrageous Pumpkins on the Food Network. Paul Dever, welcome.
Hey, happy Thursday. Happy Thursday.
There he
Happy
is.
Thursday to you, too. Next, he's a multimedia sculpture artist from Tucson, Arizona, and a finalist on Halloween Wars 2019 on the Food Network, Matt Harper.
Hello, guys. Aloha. All that, you know.
Matt with the enthusiasm coming through.
Yeah, whatever. Hi.
Our guest tonight is a legendary fine artist and illustrator known for his work with Stan Winston Studio, Mad Magazine, Famous Monsters, and GameFan Magazine, just to name a few. Please welcome Terry Wolfinger.
Hey, everybody.
Woo! There he is.
Thanks for joining us, Terry.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. It was awesome.
Absolutely.
So cool.
My name is Michael Mondragon. I'll be running the show, moderating comments, and chiming in from time to time.
Look at you.
Aw.
Wow.
Damn.
Here are our cards from last week. The subject was euphoric cyclops. Paul, this is a signature Dever right here.
Think so? Wow. It was, I don't know, the pupil's a little big. I guess kind of euphoric. Maybe got into the mushrooms. I don't know. It's a happy cyclops. I was stuck with my palette. The perfectly round Ketsukabudo.
You know, I love that what I instantly went through is the folds and the wrinkles and the lips and the mouth and that whole, it looks like it's made out of like a leather or a squishy. You want to just squeeze it and pinch its face. I don't know. It's really, really, the lips especially are just like crazy realistic looking.
Thank you. Yeah, well, that's what you got to do with those, right? I mean, those are pretty thick, so it lends itself to wrinkles. You know how we love wrinkles.
Oh, it's my favorite thing in the world.
But yeah.
And this wasn't very big, right? It was pretty small.
Oh yeah, a little bigger than a skull, I guess. Probably about that size there.
Okay. Yeah, in this picture, it looked totally bigger. Like I was thinking, you didn't have a pumpkin, but
It does look like a pumpkin from there. Yeah.
Like any smart man, I took out all background reference when posting a picture.
There you go.
There you go. Exactly. Here's Matt's from last week. Oh, and this is signature Harper right here.
Yeah. He's got the teeth, the signature Harper teeth, maybe.
Yes, and the earrings.
Yeah, I gave him a couple. I had to give him some personality, add a few little accoutrements, because you know he's euphoric, right, Paul? He's pretty happy about something.
Yeah, the teeth are awesome. There's so much depth to it. Did you add the nose?
I added the nose. Yeah.
Wow, but it's perfect. It just gives it so much depth. The teeth look as thin as teeth. It looks like there's no back to those teeth. It's perfect.
Thank you. Yeah.
The eyes super round.
I think I spent inordinate amounts of time on those stupid teeth. It's like, Terry, when we make these when we start with like a big, goofy shape like this,
Right.
We'll spend an hour and a half working on them, and then later we'll go refine them and spend time kind of getting it to this point. But inevitably, the longer you spend on it, the more you realize, holy crap, this is my 4th, 5th hour into a piece of produce that's going to rot.
Right. No, I know.
That is already rotting, or whatever. But yeah. So I had to kind of like pump the brakes and make. All right, this will be done now. So.
And I love the incredible hair up there. That is tremendous.
That's a good one, buddy. I like that you had it on a stand too. Like you pumped it up. That's pretty.
Oh yeah, because it was upside down. This top of the stem is there, so that's why I can get so deep in the mouth. Because on these things, the whole kind of the top part of a butternut squash is all solid, and so you can dig really deep in there. That helped a lot.
Well done.
Well done.
Thank you. Oh, please stop it.
Well, I work in pixels and vectors, so I think mine turned out like almost like a kid's album. This one.
I think therefore I am. Nice. Dude, that is a kid's album.
It is, yeah, totally. Just so you know, Terry, like when we do these prompts, which we're gonna do in just a minute, all my stuff started looking like album art, so I just kind of leaned into it. So, but I have like little Easter eggs in there. There's the CBS logo in the upper right, and the monster, the Cyclops in the bottom actually has a single of the Alan Parsons project, "Eye in the Sky."
Oh, yeah.
That is a deep cut.
Yeah, wow.
Wow.
You can
So
almost
good.
hear their voices.
You were one
That's
step
great.
away from like Yo Gabba Gabba. Do you remember that
Yes.
show?
Totally does. It's got that
Fight your
vibe.
friends.
Yeah. You're gonna be doing kid shows before the season's over here.
Seriously.
I'll take it. That's good. A paycheck's a paycheck, right?
Right?
That's right. That's right.
So, Terry, I'd like to introduce you to the fourth member of Carvers and Creators responsible for our carving subject tonight. It is the hollow wheel, the center spinner, and as always, Paul will tell you about it right now.
All right.
Hello, kids. Happy Thursday. Okay, Terry, what we have is the wheel. So each week we spin this twice. It gives us our character and the emotion or attribute we have to try and apply to it. So this week we have avian, derelict, guest choice, so be ready, not of this world, yeti, zombie, fantasy animal, classic monster, ape, and demon. The second spin will be disgruntled, hysterical, exhausted, guest choice again, euphoric, robust, agony, furious, astonished, and hungry. If we get on euphoric again, Matt and I are going to be very hysterically exhausted and disgruntled.
Not euphoric.
No, I'd be quite the opposite of
I'll be
euphoric.
disgruntled. That's right.
Yes. All right. Are we ready?
Yes.
A zombie. Almost got
Nice.
an animal.
Okay. Zombies are good. Zombies are good.
Come on, robust zombie, just like a stare at a wall for 45 minutes. Disgruntled zombie.
Oh,
Ah.
Oh, nuts. Okay. I'm
What?
going to write that one
What
down.
the Sam hell? Oh boy, disgruntled zombie.
Disgruntled zombie.
disgruntled
Get
zombie.
it to the chat.
So this zombie, he's
Doesn't like his job.
every brain he goes. Every brain he goes to is already gone. Somebody got it. So he's just like, time after time he gets like exasperated. Now he's disgruntled. Yeah, all right. I'm just trying to think of a story here.
So sick of being a zombie.
So
Yes.
tired every day. Another. Oh, gotta go get brains. Great.
Zombie doesn't mean I eat brains.
Gotta drive through traffic.
Yeah.
Go up at the site. All the good brains are gone.
Every time.
It's just a drag. Yeah.
Yeah.
The
Well,
undead
so
life
he
is
used
not
to
what
work
it used to be.
He used to work at the post office, so he's already mad about that.
Right.
All right. So if you're carving or creating with us, we're going to give you 5 minutes to get your tools together, get everything that you're going to have to create. Also get your carving oil if you so desire. Let's go around the horn and see what everybody's having for drinks tonight. Terry, are you partaking on anything or?
I am partaking.
Okay.
No wino though.
Ooh.
Okay.
Nice
Oh,
glass
nice
of
to know.
A
red.
nice Chianti.
Yes. It's a red blend, unfortunately.
Ooh.
Very nice.
But it's
Very
tasty.
nice.
Sweet.
Love a red. Do love a red.
Sweet.
Full bodied.
A lot,
I gotta
a lot more
switch this around. There we go.
More
Whoa.
sophisticated than what I have. That's for sure. I have a. You guys made it to a French name. It's called Michelob. Ultra. I had this in my fridge for way too long, and my justification with pulling up this macro brew is I had a little bit of a cold earlier this week, so this is kind of like drinking water.
I don't think that has anything to do with the cold. I think that's like drinking water.
It's drinking water. It's like a liquid death or something like that, but tastes different.
Matt, hold that up again. Your hand is so big that looks like a Sharpie.
It's like Andre the Giant.
It really is.
It's like one of those little baby cigarettes. Remember those Capri cigarettes? Like a toothpick.
Yeah. The Capri.
Paul, what do you got?
Oh, okay. So this beer was carefully crafted to match the sonic landscape of the song "Stars on the Ceiling" by Stealing Oceans, featuring Scott Avett. It's called "Stars on the Ceiling," and it's a little risque.
Whoa.
What should we call?
Call a doctor after this. It's a blueberry flavored ale, and it's from, and I know it's a Mainer. It's 1 PINT from Shipyard. Oh, it's a Shipyard.
Okay.
In Portland, Maine.
Shipyard. I like that.
Nice.
Shipyard.
Nice. Well, if you grew up in Arizona like Matt and I did, one of your destinations when you turned 18 was to go down to Rocky Point, Mexico. This is your Rocky Point Hazy IPA from Coronado Brewing, which is Coronado can do no wrong. But I have some stories from Rocky Point that I cannot tell on the air. And so hopefully this beer will make me forget those stories so I don't have to tell them ever again. Yeah, but it was fun. So cheers to all of our creations. Thank you, Terry, for being here. It's such a pleasure. I actually have this to start out. I wanted to show this picture really quickly. Your father's in this picture. And this is you were at Stan Winston at this time. Did you grow up in an artistic household, or was your dad an artist?
He wasn't an artist, but he loved to draw as a kid, and his favorite thing was drawing cars.
Oh wow!
So he was kind of like a hot rodder as a kid, and I don't know if I have any of his work here. I came across one of the cars recently, actually. But yeah, so he did not pursue art. He got married at a young age, and his family was saying, you need something more stable. Art isn't a stable career. You can't make a living as an artist. He always wanted to be a car designer. But he went into civil engineering instead because he was also good at math. But he loved drawing, and I'd see drawings from him and doodles on notepads and stuff. And as a little kid, 3 and 4, I'd be like, "Hey, Dad, can you draw me something so I can copy it?" And, he's like, "All right, yeah. And what do you want me to draw?" And I'd be like, "Sports car." And I'd disappear in the other room, come back later, like, "Look." And so that was awesome. And so that's where I got my love for drawing, and also my love for cars too.
And that had to probably, because you worked on it was a very short-lived magazine called Cartoons, which I loved. I thought was fantastic. But that obviously that had to be great for him as well, that you were doing that work as well, right?
Oh yeah. That magazine was around when I was a kid. And then it went away for a while, and then I discovered that it had been purchased and brought back, and so I reached out to them. I said, I've loved your magazine as a kid, and I'd love to do a cover, and they said, "Oh yeah, great." And so maybe a year later they gave me a cover. So that was definitely childhood dream right there.
That's awesome. I remember being 10 years old in 1980, reading Cartoons in the back of my grandparents' big motorhome. I love that magazine. I thought it was very underrated. I don't think a lot of people really knew about it.
No, I don't think they did. Yeah, no, it's unfortunate. Back in the day, that magazine was great. Like Crass and Bernie, and
yes,
all the different artists like George Trostley and Sean Carey and all those guys. But yeah, I had a small stack of those that I would just read and read and read and reread. and Trossley had the how to draw a particular car every month too. So
that's cool.
Like how to draw Corvettes, how to draw, a Mustang, whatever, Ferraris, all that stuff. So
I always found drawing cars so hard because it had to be perfect. I mean, like the technical lines and stuff, like even if it was at an angle, I guess the only way to get around that is do a really, stylized version of something. But even then, that has to be, perfect. I just stayed away from it.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's easy to make those things go wrong. Recently, let's see, my dad had a 1967 Corvette Stingray growing up.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, he picked it up when I was 8 years old. It was a convertible, it had the big hood scoop and
oh my gosh. Wow.
The 427 engine, and so I that's kind of where my love of Corvettes come from too. But
are you a fan of the new body style, the big new supercar looking?
Yeah, they're all right. I mean, they're not quite a Corvette anymore, but they're definitely fun looking. They're supercar looking, now.
They do look like Lamborghinis or something. Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. All the little air dams and fairings and vents and
yeah.
But my dad sold it recently, maybe I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, which I'm still not recovered from. So I still love driving that car, but he said, can you paint a picture of me in my Corvette? I'm like, oh, sure. And man, drawing a Corvette, like especially those older ones, getting those pontoon fenders right. It's like, especially if it's going into perspective, it's just like, oh, it's so maddening. But it came out pretty.
That fiberglass body, and it was so it was so hand. It looked like it was hand.
Yeah.
Especially the 70s versions of it, but yours was 60. This was
67.
67. Yeah. Okay, so this is still very Wow.
Still pretty swoopy, but not quite the 70s version now.
Yeah, that's so cool.
But yeah, at one point he actually crashed it and rolled it, and smashed the whole thing, and and he walked away without a scratch. Amazingly, the thing was just flattened and cracked, and then he put it all back together, and it came out even even better than off the showroom floor.
I bet. Yeah.
But
did you rebuild cars too as a kid, or was that part of your?
I had a truck I fooled around with. I kind of crashed it through a couple trees at one point.
Especially that, yeah.
As you are wont to do, they just jump out at you. They just, but yeah, I was 16 and I dented up the fender pretty good, and the hood and part of the door, and then I just took it upon myself to kind of learn how to do Bondo, and I just got a couple books from the library and got some supplies, and it was pretty fun. And I put it back together really, really well. And I'm like, while I'm at it, I'm gonna put a custom grill in, and I'm gonna change a few things. So
very cool.
And I have an old car right now that I kind of mess around with, but when I don't really have much time. It's a 68 Ford Galaxy that I've had for a while.
Oh wow. Okay.
The big boat looking thing.
I had a 67 Cougar.
Oh, nice.
Mercury Cougar, because my brother had one, and so I was really nostalgic when I, for that car, just because of all the memories you get. But so I bought one, kind of on a whim, and give midlife crisis, horse crap, and next thing you know, I have it in my garage, and it's got this big 427 Police Interceptor, giant engine in it, and all this stuff.
Wow.
Everything I wanted, right?
Yeah.
But it smells like gas. It's always down. It was leaking everywhere. There was big puddles of some fluid always on the thing. So my 3 daughters, they didn't even want to go in the garage anymore because it just like reeked of gasoline and exhaust and everything. So needless to say, they wouldn't ride around in it because it's so loud. And I'm like, okay. So I ended up getting rid of it as well, but at the same time, it was really fun to own for a little while.
Yeah. Well, the gas smell is kind of part of the charm, I think.
Yeah. You have to embrace it. Yeah.
I still can remember how my truck in high school smelled. It was a 72 Chevy stepside. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And then I put headers on it, and
of course.
Wow. Yeah.
Big wheels in the back, little wheels in the front.
Tricked out.
Yeah, but yeah. So
that's awesome.
So did you traditionally learn art? Did you go to school, or did you learn on your own, or how did that?
Yeah, so I always drew as a kid. Ever since before I can remember, I was drawing. And I had a great art teacher in junior high who was also on the side a very kind of prominent caricature artist in the Bay Area, and his name was Dennis Moran. And so he kind of took me under his wing because he saw the potential, and he saw how much I love drawing. And I think I took his art class a couple times in junior high, and he was also part of the Cartoonist Association of California or the Bay Area or something. I forget the name, but so he would regularly hang out with Charles Schultz and guys like that. And
wow.
And he actually took me to a dinner one night with my parents in San Francisco, and it was a party for Jim Davis, the guy who draws Garfield. Yeah, and it was the announcement of his first Garfield book was coming out.
Oh my God!
Wow. And so I got to meet Jim Davis. I got to talk with Charles Schultz, and my teacher was introducing me to and other cartoonists too, and yeah, so I have a Snoopy and a Garfield, drawn by both those guys that night. So
wow. That's amazing.
Yeah, and so it just was so fortunate to have this guy as a teacher, and then as luck would have it, he left the junior high and went to the same high school the year that I was going to high school. So I had him.
He's following you. That's kind of what I'm going to
say.
Right.
Yeah, he was stalking me. It became a problem. He'd show up at my house. Wow. Hey, meet dinner. No. But yeah, so I was introduced to a lot of different stuff, different art techniques, inking and washes and things, and paper mache and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
And so that I kind of had a feel for stuff in that sense, and then I went to Cal Arts right after high school, and I went through the character animation program, the 4-year program there.
Yeah. So many people have gone to Cal Arts, and I'm just so enamored about that school. But so many people have gone through. Did you have any famous classmates? Because I know so many people that like John Lasseter and Burton and all the folks who did Hillenberg, who made SpongeBob, and all those guys.
Right. I want to say just about everybody in my class has gone on to do amazing things. Like I know guys that were at The Simpsons forever. I know guys that are now directing at Pixar.
Wow.
Just a lot of talented people. Like my class was only 30 new students that year. So it was, very kind of small, and you got a lot of hands-on personal kind of attention and stuff. You know, I think they let in a lot more students now, but yeah, like Andrew Stanton, he was a couple years ahead of me, but you know, I sort of knew them, you know,
Yeah.
he sort of knew me. But yeah, just handful of different guys.
That's so
They're
great.
doing all sorts of amazing things. But yeah,
Yes.
it was a pretty well-rounded course load.
Yeah, so like looking at your work and I mean, where did you start? Did you start? I when we talked before the show started, you were saying that your stuff was more cartoony, but then kind of
Yeah.
turned more realistic. So what were your influences back then?
Well, I loved Mad Magazine, comic
Oh,
books. I loved reading Marvel comics as a kid. And I loved animation too. So, you know, I went and took a couple tours in the LA area for art schools and stuff. And just CalArts really just kind of resonated with me just because of all the drawing and, you know, my art teacher in high school was, you know, a cartoonist. So I kind of leaned towards that. Even though my style was a little more realistic than a lot of the other people, because there's a lot of classmates that were very, you know, I'm going to CalArts because I want to work for Disney. And so their stuff was very geared towards, you know, that sort of style, like the, you know, dogs and cats and anthropomorphic type stuff. But,
Sure.
you know, my stuff was a little more headbanger and, you know, cars and, you know, like drawing superheroes and monsters and weird stuff. Yeah. But, you know, my mom was very creative growing up too. She wasn't an artist either, but she was very arts and craft oriented. And like she did all sorts of things. And she got into making stained glass windows when I was a kid. And like,
oh, wow.
Yeah. So I have a few in my home that she's made, you know, really big, amazing looking things.
Wow.
Sorry, where was I? So I wasn't really sure, you know, what it meant to be an artist at that age. And my mom was like, "Oh, you're going to be an artist someday." I'm like, I don't even know how to paint. I don't know what that is to be an artist. And, but I used to make little flip books as a kid.
Yeah.
You know, little animated things. And I had stacks and stacks of those that, you know, I submitted some of those as my portfolio to get into CalArts.
Oh, wow.
So I really, you know, I was like, yeah, animation sounds great. And, you know, it's a lot of learning how to draw. And there was courses on color and design, drawing in perspective, life drawing, you know, animation itself, character design. So there's many days where I'd wake up at, you know, whatever first class, 8 o'clock till, you know, 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
And we talk about this a lot as well. Like this was all pre-computer, free,
yes.
And being an artist and that path may not have been as clear. And you know, not that I was discouraged as far as being an artist, because really it was the only thing I could do, and I wasn't going to take anybody's advice otherwise. But I didn't know what my path was going to be. So, you know, being a traditional artist could have had certain jobs, but everything was going into digital at that time. Was that on your mind at the time, or did you even care?
Yeah, I was at the very beginning of the digital, so I wasn't even kind of aware. Like I graduated high school in '85, and then that's when I started CalArts. And right as I was graduating, you know, we had a class, like like a computer painting class, and it was really I forget what I think the computers were like Amigas, not great computers, and like the program was called like Digipaint or something, and very limited, but it was cool. I played around with it, and I, as luck would have it, I was going after whatever job came up. Like I discovered that CalArts had a job board, and I was like, oh, job board. I mean, that was like, oh my God, art jobs? Are you kidding? I can apply for art jobs? I don't have to.
That's a thing?
Yeah. I don't have to work at a restaurant or, But so I kind of applied for everything, and I landed a few jobs. I got a job at a greeting card company doing some caricatures for a teeny bit. And then that led to a job of doing painted caricatures for a comedy show starring Jimmy Walker. Remember?
Oh, no way.
Jimmy Walker?
Yeah, Dynamite. It was an evening of comedy with Jimmy Walker and friends.
Oh,
and,
I totally remember that, actually.
Do you?
Yeah, I do. I'm a big comedy fan.
Okay.
And I'm a big pop culture nerd. So yeah, I actually do remember that.
Mickey's a nerd in general.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Also pop culture.
Kind of a funny story. So I take the job listing. I have my caricatures that I've done black and white for this greeting card of like famous celebrities. I go down there. It's on Sunset Boulevard in Hollywood. Go up in this big building, and I'm in my little Honda Civic, like, oh wow. But and so they're like, well, can you paint these like 10 feet by 5 feet? And I'm like, yeah, I can do that. Because I had one of the speakers in one of my classes at CalArts said, like, you know what, just say yes to everything. Like, right. You can figure it out later.
That's great advice. Yeah.
Like, even if you've not done it, I mean, you kind of have a sense of what you can do. Like, obviously, if they said, can you weld something? I was like, no, I don't know how to weld. Right. So I said yes, and then I went and figured out how to do it and showed them all my sketches, and then they were going to give me $200, and I was like, yeah, $200. Like, sweet, plus they were going to give me, I don't know, $100 for supplies or something. But anyway, so as I'm painting these big things nailed up in my dorm room, and then I'm like, and I had to paint like 10 of them. And
oh boy.
Yeah. And so then I start doing the math, like, and it's like that Napoleon Dynamite scene.
Wait a minute. Yeah, this is $1 an hour.
I'm getting $20 a painting. I'm spending hours on these things. Yeah. Like in between my course load too, which was insane.
Oh boy.
But so and it was being taped live in Las Vegas. And so they're like, we're going to fly you out to Las Vegas too, because just in case we need you to change something or do something else. I'm like, okay, sure. Yeah, that sounds great. Cool. So they put me up in a nice room at the Bally's, and I'm like 21, never been to Vegas before. I'm like, holy shit. And then they were giving me a per diem, here's a certain amount of cash to eat and whatever. Yeah. Which was more than I was making on the job. So I'm like, okay, well, for dinner, I'm just going to eat at Arby's, and I've only spent like $5.
Yeah, right.
So, and I'm going to pocket the rest of my per diem, being a starving student, you got to be smart.
Yeah.
But, and I'm talking to some of the the construction guys and some of the grips and the workers who putting on the show, and they're looking at my paintings, and they're like, holy wow, you did these. And I was 21, but I've always kind of looked young for my age, like, so I look like I was like maybe 12, you know, like 16 or something. Like, holy shit, you did this? Like, yeah, I did that. Yeah. But so, and then I was talking to, I think, one of the producers or something, and he was like, "Oh, how much you getting for this?" I'm like, "Oh, $200." I'm like, "What? $200?" And he's like, "That's ridiculous." I'm like, you know, whatever. I'm all right. And so then I guess the big producer, one of the Kushnicks, who used to produce the Tonight Show or something,
Right.
Oh my God.
Helen Kushnick and
Helen Kushnick managed Jay Leno, yeah.
right.
And so
Oh my
they came in for the show, and this one other producer's like, you know, they introduced me like, oh, and I'm like, oh, hi, and the guy and this producer guy goes, hey, why don't you pay this kid? And I, what? We're paying him. We're paying him. So, long story short, I finally get my check, and yeah, they boosted it up to like $1,200 or $1,500.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So, but anyway,
Just being an artist, I thought your story was going to be, I still got $200.
you're right. No, yeah.
Typical.
I mean, I you know, I still can't complain. You know, I put me up in a nice hotel, flew me out there.
Yeah.
And, you know,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But and then it was funny because I'm getting to how I transitioned to illustration, but I
We
told
got time. Hey, Terry, we got plenty of time.
okay.
Yeah.
And then that's it. That's it.
Good night, kids.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Everything worked out.
So I actually, there was another time, you know, I had done these caricatures and stuff, and which led to this other job. And then another job came through. I guess they were specifically looking, this company was looking for an animator to do animation for a video project they had. And it was a heavy metal based rock videotape product that they were putting out. It was sort of ahead of its time. This was like, you know, pre-internet. These guys were putting out a videotape that every 2 months there'd be a new videotape, and you could purchase it at like a record music store. And it was called Hard and Heavy, the best of hard rock and heavy metal. And it was uncensored videos, uncensored interviews with your favorite bands. And, you know, and it had, you know, big name bands and stuff. And they were looking for an artist, an animator, to do these like kind of interstitial segue bumpers in between the interview segments and stuff like that.
Very cool. Yeah.
And so I went out, you know, I was only one of a couple people that applied, and I got this gig, and I remember going down to this place in Beverly Hills and like, okay, I'm going to bring my craziest stuff from high school. Like I had, you know, a drawing of like a guy's head being like blown off by a stereo speaker.
Yeah.
And so the, you know, the producer saw it. So, can you animate this? I'm like, yes, I can. Sure. You know, in color. I'm like, oh, of course. You know, back to saying yes.
Oh, that's everything. Yeah.
And then I you know, I went and he was like, all right, well, how much is that going to cost? And I'm like, I'm like, well, I'm not going to be able to start on it right away. I've got this gig I'm doing in Las Vegas right now, you know, like, which was this comedy show. And so they're like, oh, wow, this, what? Like this,
he's in demand. Yeah.
This kid's already happening. Yeah. I was like, what? And so I'm like, I didn't know how to charge for this, but I ended up, I'm like, well, we have like a kind of a blueprint of how we charge for animation. Let me talk to my department head, and I'll get back to you on a price. I'm like, all right. And so like I talked to some people, and they're like, oh yeah. animation is like, yeah, $1,000 a foot or something. You know, a foot of animation is like, you know, I might be getting this wrong now, but it's like, you know, 24 frames, but which is like a second, you know. So,
yeah, that's a lot. Oh my god.
So, you know, they wanted just like a few seconds of animation. I'm like, well, it's going to be blah blah blah, and it was like, you know, like I throw down this crazy price to them, and they're like, all right.
Oh,
you need any money up front?
Damn it! It was more. It was more. I meant more.
Yeah, and I was like, so yeah, I get this job, and they gave me a couple $100 to buy materials, and I went to an animation store that sold cells and cell vinyl and paintbrushes, and I just asked a few people, like, is this how you do it? And you know, I had some inking pens. I just hand inked the cells, and then they turned out, you know, I shot it on a 3/4 animation system at CalArts that was kind of, you know, I hadn't seen anything that could shoot animation to video like that. And they were impressed with the quality, and they said, hey, you know, we have some time. Can you do a few more for us? I'm like, oh, sure. So I ended up doing like maybe 5 more things for them, and like so the last semester at college, I was just kind of working for this company in my dorm room. You know, I had this whole setup of like, I made it like a little set of shelves out of foam core where I could dry each cell. You know, while they're
so cool.
So you were painting these cells like individually?
Yeah, I do the hand animation, you know, on paper, and then I'd hand ink them on, you know, it's celluloid, like a clear plastic sheet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then and painted them all. And so I have stacks and stacks of these things in my garage.
Oh wow! See, you can now in the eBay era, you could sell those.
Yeah,
one cell. You know,
for hard and heavy, there's got to be like a cult following for that.
Absolutely.
Well, maybe after this podcast airs, people will be like, "Oh,
yes,
there you go. There you go."
I waited my whole life to find where those cells.
Exactly.
But and so I did that for a few years, and then as luck would have it, they kind of ran out of money, and then I was kind of left.
They gave it all to you.
Yeah, right. Well, it was funny because they liked my stuff, and they were working with an animation studio that was based in London, and I guess they liked my stuff so much, they're like, for the next 3 years they only used me. They didn't use this. Wow. So like I replaced a studio.
Wow.
So that was kind of fun. but yeah, you know, I was like, am I too expensive? Is this like, no, you're cheaper than the other place. So yeah, don't worry about it.
Well, that's what I was going to say. As someone who teaches artists business, you weren't charging enough, amazingly enough, which is kind of crazy to think about.
Well, maybe, yeah. I mean, my paychecks started to getting smaller and smaller as it went on, and
yes,
and then they were getting later and later too, and you know, by the time they closed,
usually what happens.
They owed me a little bit of money too when they shut down. But
one of the things that I'm enamored by too is like your catalog. I mean, if you go to, I encourage everybody who's on the show with us, just please go and spend a couple hours. It's minimally on his Instagram, because you're going to find stuff as you scroll back that you're like, oh my God, this and that character, like it just, I'll go way down, and I'll scroll so far down that my Wi-Fi has to catch up, and it finally does.
Yeah.
And then I'll see something so cool from 5-10 years ago, whatever, and it's just it's amazing. But you have a great influence from horror movies. So did you when you were a kid, did you watch a lot of horror movies, and was that kind of your Because I mean, it spans everything. You have Falling Down, you have Large March,
Yeah.
you have Stan Lee, you've got everything in the middle. But a lot of cool ass horror movie stuff. Did you like him as a kid?
Yeah. I mean, not the super scary stuff, but I did. I like the Godzilla movies and the classic stuff like Frankenstein and the Mummy. And I remember my dad one time for a birthday, I guess 8 or 9 or something, he rented some 8mm, projector movies from the library. And he had some clips from the Phantom of the Opera, the Lon Chaney Sr. version.
Yeah.
And, that character, left an impression on me too, and that was, and so I did, I picked up, a lot of monster books as a kid, how to do monster makeup and this and that. And so, yeah, I did love monsters, and I loved, the Mad Magazine stuff. And, as I got older, I was into more scarier and scarier movies, but.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm sure you have a cult following just for the movies, because at Monsterpalooza recently last year, when Paul and Mickey were there, you notice people have their affinity to. I mean, even if the movie flat out sucked, the character was cool.
Right?
They will dress up as a character. They will wear the shirt. They will do. They will go crazy because the character is just so badass, and you capture those so well. In a lot of your amazing paintings, and I mean, they feel like they're almost like candid shots of them in a lot of ways. I don't know anyway, but I'm assuming that those crazy fans have a rabid following for all the work you do. I'm assuming that. But
no, some of the fans of my work are they covered. They'll show me their arms or their legs. They're just covered with all sorts of classic monsters stuff. And so, it's, but thank you too. You're very kind to say.
It's tremendous. It's just fun. It's fun to go cycle through it. And so speaking of ones like Falling Down or Doc Holliday, those aren't horror movies, but but the characters are so iconic. Are you drawn to a really amazing character too? Because you're certainly, perfect at capturing them. Put it that way, because but are you drawn to those?
Those are two of my favorites too.
Thank you. No. Usually, if I try to keep the monster fans appeased by doing monsters stuff, but sometimes I'll just, I want to do something that I love also, like the Doc Holliday character from Tombstone. I mean, I love that movie, and his portrayal is so awesome. And I'm a huge Mad Max fan. And speaking of cars, but I just started doing more monsters when I was a little older, So after the animation stuff fell apart, I tried getting other gigs in animation, but, my portfolio consisted of all this head-banging, crazy, violent stuff. And, this is pre-Beavis and Butthead, so it was like, people were like, oh, no, your stuff is very entertaining, but I don't think you're a good fit. I'm like, well, I can do Disney stuff. I just,
it's the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Right. But, so I kind of shot myself in the foot with that. I had a hard time getting work in the animation field. And then, illustration stuff started popping up here and there. Jumping ahead, I bumped into a guy in a video game store, and he asked if I was an artist, because I was wearing a leather jacket that I had painted a big red skull on the back. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm an artist. Yeah. He's like, oh, because we're putting together this magazine, video game magazine. You like video games? I'm like, oh yeah, I love video games. And yeah, we're looking for an artist. And they need to know how to do airbrush work, and like, okay. And so I quickly went and picked up a book on how to airbrush.
Again, the fake it till you make it comes alive. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, luckily it's worked out in my favor. But so I go in and I meet with the guy that's the editor in chief, the publisher, and yeah, they want to do like kind of a mascot character on every cover each month, and it was like this big muscly blue guy with a TV for a head called Monitor. Like monitor. But and then they gave me a couple assignments, like a Sonic the Hedgehog and a couple other things, and I said, sure, yeah, I can do that. And then I'm like, okay, I owned an airbrush, but I'd mostly only done like smoke effects or like a shine mark here and there,
Right.
And speaking of large margin, so I got the materials, like, oh, there's the stuff you need. It's called frisket. Oh, blah blah blah. And the book I bought came with like a couple of projects to do. Like they had a blue line of like a big letter E that they wanted you to make it look like it was gold. And so I did that one, and it just came out like garbage. Like I was pressing too hard on my X-Acto, like the thing was all cut to hell, and the paint was running and blotching, and it just looked terrible. But I kind of learned, and I'm like, I was still like, okay, the next one is gonna be better. And then as luck would have it, I scheduled a little vacation, a weekend vacation with my parents to meet them in Pismo Beach to go riding in the sand dunes.
Oh yeah, okay.
On the four-wheelers. So we did that, and I brought my light, my drawing. I had like a little portable drawing table, and I brought my airbrush kit with me, and I'm like, well, I'll just work on that in the hotel room, after the day. And as luck would have it, our first day out riding, I got a piece of sand stuck under my eyelid, and by night it was hurting so bad I had to go to the emergency room, and it turns out I had scratched my cornea all up.
Oh shit.
And so they give me drops and dilated, and I give me an eye patch. So my first assignment getting into GameFan Magazine, I did basically with one eye.
Oh my God.
Not familiar with any of the materials or any of the equipment.
How else can I make this more difficult?
Yeah. Exactly.
But they came out pretty
break
good.
your hand too on the way.
Right.
You're right. Then I broke my hand and had to do it left-handed. No. But yeah, surprisingly, it came out pretty good, and I got the job. And yeah, I was there learning how to illustrate and being paid to do it.
So great.
That's so great.
So
Mick, do you have his Doc Holliday in your deck?
I'm looking if I do or don't. I want to say that I do.
Yeah, we it's one of my favorite things. I know you eventually you so tell us when you because on your site I know you can go and purchase prints of a lot of things, and some things run out and other things don't, but like you're falling down character and Doc Holliday and stuff. Are those kind of staples you can grab? Because there's a couple I want. I guess I'm asking a very funny question.
Oh yes. Most of them are open-ended prints. I do have some of the canvases, or most of the canvases are limited edition, and the larger prints are limited too. And every now and then I'll have original stuff too. But yeah, most of the stuff like the 8x10s are usually always on stock and available.
Okay.
If you go to Wolfinger.bigcartel.com. Yeah.
Not a big cartel. Okay, beautiful. So take a note of that, people. Do you typically? I mean, are you? I guess in a day in the life of Terry, are you getting a lot of? Is it driven by like commissions, or are you kind of just doing your own a little bit? Because you talked about kind of doing some things, your passion projects, and then going back to different things. What's a typical week for you or day for you?
It's kind of a mixed bag for most weeks. Usually, I went freelance about, I guess, almost 4 years ago. Like
Okay.
towards the end of 2019, I decided to go freelance. So I had been in advertising for about 9 years as an illustrator. And I had spent maybe 2 or 3 years too long in that field because I was getting kind of burnt out of it. But so I'll get a project that maybe will go. Sometimes I'll get a big project that's going to last for a couple months, and sometimes it's a project that'll last for a couple weeks.
Okay.
And then in between there, maybe I'll get, someone asking if I can do a painting or a sketch.
Okay.
I've just finished up a couple commissioned oil paintings. If you check out my Instagram, you can probably see which ones. One of them was a Bela Lugosi Dracula oil.
Okay. Okay.
And then one was the French version of Beauty and the Beast. The older one, La Belle et la Bête. That I'm about to deliver that one. Oh yeah. So that Bela Lugosi was kind of when I was really starting to get kind of serious into I need to have something of my own going on the side. I was working at an advertising job, and I had gone into Halloween Town in Burbank. I don't know if you guys know that place.
I've been there. I love it. It's the best Halloween store in town, in the world.
Yeah. And so they're open all year round. It's super high end. A lot of cool stuff in there. And they sell art from a handful of artists, original art and stuff. And at the time, this is maybe 10 years ago, they were doing, every now and then they would do these art shows. And I, as luck would have it, I found out about them because I worked up the street from them. And so on my lunch break, I would go in there and wander around. And then I finally was like, you know what? I'm just going to drop off a postcard of my art and just say, hey, I'm looking, I really would like to be in your next art show. And, the owner of the company emailed me and was like, oh my gosh, yeah, please, your art's great. And it was a Haunted Mansion tribute show.
Like the Disney Haunted Mansion, like that.
Yeah, the Disney Haunted Mansion. Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
No, I just
And so I
only one, but just making sure.
Right. And so I did a piece for that, and Rick Baker did a couple pieces, and he was there, and so I got to meet Rick Baker, and
wow.
And I was working on a painting of Jack from American Werewolf in London, the first one I did, and it was almost done. So I printed out a copy of it, and I had it there with me to give to him, and a buddy of mine was working with Rick at the time too. So I'm like, oh yeah, a buddy of mine works for you, and he's like, oh yeah, who's your buddy? And he's like, oh yeah, okay. And my friend Arian, who is also a very talented artist, Arian Tuitin.
What a hell of a name! I don't know that guy.
Yeah, a Dutch guy. He's a very, very skilled makeup artist. and sculptor and painter, and the guy's crazy talented. So anyway, yeah, it ended up being pretty good. And then a couple months later, they did a Classic Monsters art show, and I was doing it was kind of crazy. I was doing my own art show in Pasadena. It was around the time of my first Monsterpalooza as well. It was the first son of Monsterpalooza.
Okay.
And on the same weekend, I had an art opening at this coffee shop. And I think it was September, so it was going to be all monster themed. And so the first one I did was the Lon Chaney Phantom of the Opera.
Okay.
And I did a handful of other guys. And then for Halloween Town, she only wanted stuff that wasn't going to be in another show. I'm like, oh, okay. So I got to paint a couple new ones. Anyway, then she saw what I was showing at my other show. She's like, okay, I don't ever do this, but I want those in my show too. so I think I ended up having like 6 pieces in this show at Halloween Town. And then, I had a booth at Monsterpalooza, and then I was doing this Pasadena art show, which was just crazy, too much stuff at once. And Rick Baker had done a ton of paintings too. Like I think he did like 10 classic monster guys, and I think I had 6. So, but it was pretty cool. Like, so that kind of, and she's like, I want to sell these in my store too, like prints. I'm like, okay. So,
sure. Yeah.
So that's one of the few places you can buy my, prints of my stuff in like a brick and mortar store.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So now you say the volume of which you can put out work. How long does it usually take you to complete painting?
Well, a lot of these paintings I was doing were digitally painted, which she was okay with. Like, I wasn't trying to pass anything off as like originals. Because when I was at GameFan Magazine doing the hand airbrush stuff, at one point, I had done about 8 or 10 covers hand airbrushed, and they were all desktop published at the time, which was kind of a new thing, and they were all being created on Macintosh computers. And I was looking at some of the production guys, I'm like, is that little icon that's an airbrush, does that work like an airbrush? I'm like, oh yeah. Like, is there a way to mask out areas? Oh yeah. I'm like, oh shit. So I started applying what I knew from traditional airbrushing to computer airbrushing. And then that kind of started me digitally painting, which was probably like 92, 93. And I didn't know of any other people that were actually, published digital painters at the time.
Wow. That's
so I think I was one of the first ones. I know there was some guys like Justin Sweet was a character concept artist that I think he was doing his stuff digitally too, around the same time. And so then I kind of started studying painting, and then I would meet people. Like I met a traditional painter who worked at, who ended up working at GameFan as well, and he knew how to paint traditionally. And he's like, oh well, what you got to do is you got to do an underpainting, and then blah blah blah, and started. He's like, oh, don't ever use blacks in your shading. That kills your flesh tones, and like it's all temperature based, and which is all true. And like you want to use like alizarin crimson in your shadows if it's like in a face. I'm like, huh, what, really? Okay. So I just started learning more about traditional painting and applying it to my digital stuff, and because I wanted to learn how to paint, traditionally. And
sure.
I'd messed around with it, but nothing great. But
now, what year is this? This is back in the early 90s at this point.
Yeah,
right?
This is probably like 92 through 95, 96.
Okay.
And so my painting got pretty good. Like it didn't look like computer airbrush stuff. It, you know, and I was doing it all with a mouse too.
Wow.
That's great.
Wow.
This is before tablets. So like,
It's all you had. Yeah. You can't even use your finger. It's like,
yeah, like I had so much stuff that I painted. Let me see if I have anything I can show you.
I'm enamored because when you talk about your origin story, while you're looking that up, and you see what you do now in all mediums, even if it's oil or geez, your watercolor stuff or your digital or whatever, to think that you to be a pioneer in the 90s when, I mean, shoot, it was like the worst possible pixels and everything else, and just,
right.
To make it look realistic and good to sell was I imagine that's like a magic trick at this point. Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I wonder what it would be like to go use those same things and create again. Not versus now. The tech would be probably just like going back to grade school.
I've thought of doing that. Yeah. This is I don't know if the glare is terrible on this. Oh, here's.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, there we go.
This is something I did at Stan Winston Studio.
Oh my God.
And yeah, it was all painted with a mouse. I don't.
That's crazy.
Holy Moses! So you're having to zoom in, zoom out, zoom in, zoom out, like just to get like little nuance.
Well, and since there's no fades in there wasn't any pressure sensitive stuff, so you had to like kind of program fades into the mouse, the brush strokes.
Yes.
Like so it would taper off, and so you're constantly doing this,
Yes,
with the mouse.
Yeah, and back then too, it was like, I want to say it was like late 90s. Like if you went off the canvas, like the edge was the edge.
It was just gone. Yeah,
it was. You had to like kind of figure out, kind of going off the page. Now you can go off and you can resize it and everything.
Right.
And back then it wasn't like that.
And no layers and one undo. So
right.
Oh, yeah. One undo.
One back.
Wow. I mean, there have been times where I put hours into something and then I'd look and I'm like, oh shit, I moved something and totally ruined something that was, because I was so zoomed in.
Right.
And I've saved. So it's like, oh.
Oh.
Gotta repaint all that,
Yes. And are you ready for this? The computer technology wasn't great back then either, as far as memory went, processors. Yeah. Like I would lose work just saving it.
Oh, I know.
It would, and then you'd literally lose everything you just worked on.
Right. Well, I remember the hard drives could maybe hold 100 megs, so you're like, okay, I gotta keep this file at 5 megs.
Right, you can go and that would also affect your memory of what you were using, the tool you were using as well. Oh God.
Right. Like you do a brush stroke and be like,
right.
Okay, that's right. Oh my God.
Like, yes. Okay, I better save this, and I'm gonna come back in 20 minutes and see if it's saved yet. And I go, hope it's saved.
It's so true. Now, how did you take it to actually get printed? I know that like there was technology like SideQuest drives and stuff like that, and
right.
Other
I've lost so much art on SideQuest drives. It was the worst. Like they'd always fail, and they'd always go corrupt.
If you drop them or like bump them, it would be done as well.
They were constantly getting corrupted. It's like
oh, the good old days.
I have virtually no work from my GameFan days, digital work, and hardly any from Stan Winston either. But
yeah, mine's backed up on CDs, and they won't even mount anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
good time.
I don't know. It's crazy, but so at one point, I think I was at Stan Winston. So I went from GameFan to Stan Winston because.
How'd you make that leap? I'd love to know the story behind it.
Well, this is kind of an interesting Hollywood story too, where it's like, what? So there was a coworker of mine who was like, oh, my my grandma Faye, she's related to Stan Winston. I could probably get you an interview. I'm like, what? No.
No way.
And so I finally I called him. I'm like, yeah, all right. So we went out to lunch with his grandma, so she could kind of meet me and say like, oh yeah, I know him, and seems like a nice guy. And his grandma, like, I always knew she was in film, and she had worked on like movies like way back, like King Kong and stuff, and like, wow, that's cool. And so she puts in a good word for me with Stan, and I go and I just bring a ton of stuff, and I have, I brought a bunch of my digital illustration work, which was getting pretty good then, and some monster sketches from sketchbooks and early stuff too.
Yeah.
And I had built a mascot character too of that Monitor guy, and I built a foam muscle suit basically over, a mannequin, and it came out really nice, and so I had that in my portfolio too, and Stan was impressed by that as well, and he's like, oh, so you know Faye? I'm like, yeah, well, I'm friends with her grandson, but yeah, I know Faye, and she's really nice, and he really liked my work, and he offered me a job on the spot.
Oh my gosh, what a dream!
And then he brought Crash, Crash McCreary in to meet me. I'm like, hey, what do you think of this guy? And Crash was like, oh wow, this is cool. Oh wow, you did all this in color, and so, as luck would have it, I was like, oh cool, I'm gonna work on movies. Yeah, this is gonna be awesome. But I think the fact that I had this big video game background and all this stuff, designing characters and stuff for games and things, Stan Winston at the time was going to venture out and create art for video games.
Oh,
and so my first assignment there, I'm like, wow, what film am I going to get to work on? And he's like, and so it was a video game. Like, oh man,
that, yeah,
like they pulled me back in. But it was cool. It was a game called Monster Street Hockey, which had these big kind of rat fink monster guys.
Oh wow,
that picture I just showed you with that goalie looking guy, he was one of them.
Oh okay.
But and so I did that for a little while. The video games ended up not ever getting made, and for one reason or another. But then they kept me around, and I got to work on other stuff. Got to work a little bit on Jurassic Park 2 and doing some color designs on some of the male dinosaurs.
Oh wow.
And I got to work on a Michael Jackson video.
Wow.
Michael Jackson's Ghosts.
Oh.
It was kind of a short film. It was kind of too long for a video and too short for a movie. So MTV, they showed it a few times, but it didn't. They didn't know what to do with it, unfortunately.
No.
But so I did a couple character designs on that, and I did storyboards as well for that.
Wow.
But
so you must know. You thinking of the suit you made? You probably know Tom.
Ted
Foam Faber.
Mr. Ted Haynes.
Ted Haynes. I saw Tom for some. Ted Haynes.
I do not.
Does that ring a bell? So I think he. I know he bounced around from different places, but he's a huge foam fabrication suit guy. And he's been on our show a few times. Big fan.
Okay.
We're a big fan of his, really, and we've been we hung out with him at Monsterpalooza last year. But I mean, I also know he did some stuff for Stan Winston too. But I'm not. Your paths may not have crossed. Is the only problem. That's
Yeah, I was there collectively maybe 3 or 4 years at Stan's. I was there a little bit in '96, and then again back in like 2000 to 2002 or 3 or something like that.
Okay. Yeah, that's like, it's still, to me, that's like the quintessential, like, if you worked at Stan Winston, even to this day, like we've been blessed to have like Jordi Shell on, and I remember, paying for the Stan Winston School, videos of him doing maquettes and stuff, like just skull forms and stuff, so I could get better. But yeah, I just it's kind of the gold standard of a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, no, for sure. No, I try to learn as much as I can from other artists. Like I remember, I was up in the design room with Crash, and I remember I would just kind of come in and stand behind him and ask questions like, "Wow, what are you doing?" He's done all sorts of amazing things in his career, but all traditional pencil stuff. And so I kind of got into that for a while, and
there we go.
Eddie.
Now, because you were out there, did you get to watch Mr. Van Halen when they were in the club scene?
I did not, which is a shame. I wish I had.
So this is 2020, so I'm assuming this is like at that time of his death or pretty close.
Yeah. I think he just passed away, and I wanted to kind of honor him with a little tribute.
I love it.
Yeah. So
yeah.
There you go. There's the final. Yeah.
That's
amazing. The sparks coming off the guitar, like my eye goes right to that. Like just that's so
good.
great.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, that was digitally painted, but a lot of the monster stuff you were showing earlier, those were all oils. Like the big Frankenstein and the bride, and
yep. I love like looking at where it starts and where it ends.
Me too. I'm such a big fan of that. Just like the whole process.
Yeah. No, I like posting my sketches and stuff too. Showing warts and all. The sketches aren't perfect. When I paint them, I try to make them better.
Look at that.
But I've always drawn, traditionally in my sketchbook. Usually with ballpoint pen, and so I'll scan those and paint directly on top of those, and if you zoom way in on them, I usually leave a lot of the sketch showing through, and it helps to give that kind of organic quality to the digital paintings.
Yeah.
I always liked working in ballpoint pen better than pencil sometimes, because it forced you to actually you had to make different decisions, and you had to. It was like painting. It was like whatever's there is there.
Yeah, you got to commit
to it.
Yeah, I mean, sketching is like, you get those happy accidents sometimes too when you're sketching. That
right.
If you're constantly erasing, then maybe you don't get those. But I do pencil stuff too.
Yeah.
Still, but like I carry a sketchbook around, and I always got a ballpoint pen in there. Just
now that's for all you wannabe artists out there. That is an artist to carry around your sketchbook. That is commitment.
Where you go. Yeah.
I mean, like I said, I was working at this advertising company, and on my lunch breaks, I was doing my monster stuff, and I'm like, okay, I got a show coming up. And I'd just be at lunch, out with my coworkers and stuff, but I'd be drawing stuff at the table in my sketchbook, trying to finish up my Lugosi or,
Yep.
And I mean, I used to do that as a kid, pre cell phone, if it was somewhere where I was not supposed to be talking, like my mom would hand me a pad of paper and a pen. I'm like, okay.
That's the go-to move right there.
Yeah. So
I know, and from my experience, that's the only way to keep my two from beating the piss out of each other in a restaurant.
Exactly.
Yeah. Or going to church, I think I would make some horrible things on the
to get the other person to laugh.
Oh gosh.
Oh God.
Yeah,
Yes.
pass it to your sister. You're like, what do you think of this? And, like, and the next thing you know, they're
Yeah, right.
not me.
Right.
But
Well,
McFrazzle Stash has a good point, Mick. I don't know if you with that last one. Yeah, that one. If you're working on something that's like a ballpoint pen or whatever, or you're whatever you draw, it's kind of like the one and done type of scenario, like sketching or sculpting in this fun medium.
Yeah,
That's
for sure. Well, it's like you guys in your pumpkin carving. You make one wrong. Oops! I've cut that nose off. Now I gotta figure it out.
Well,
Now I just tell everybody it didn't have a nose to begin with.
Yeah,
That's right.
Exactly.
Supposed to.
Zombie,
That looks great.
Yeah. So let's cue in Paul. Show us what you got there.
I'm blocking. Looks like a bowling pin, don't it?
It does.
It does.
Awesome. You're gonna make shoulders and the whole. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
I'm gonna give him that. He's what is he? Befuddled, bewildered.
He's disgruntled.
Disgruntled.
Same thing, different syllable.
It's many syllables.
He's as disgruntled as a zombie can be.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I've never seen like an at peace zombie. That would actually be really hard.
Zombie.
Right. Yeah.
That's
Like
great.
a euphoric zombie would have been tough.
Yes.
Yeah. He just finished praying. Well, I mean, thank God we didn't have at peace zombie on the.
At peace.
You're
zombie.
Oh,
There's so much.
Lucky.
oh, that's awesome, Paul.
There's hours and hours of shaping that has to go into this just so I can get to this part and go, oh boy, that's pretty hollow. Figure that if I can roughen the head and get that correct and really give him a long crook neck.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? So as long as this is kind of pretty solid to this point,
yeah.
Then if I can shrink the head, it'll make the shoulders look better. You know what I mean? Because of the dropped shoulder look. In theory, I could screw it up at any second. This could just go completely off the rails.
That's what super glue is for. Just make
right. It could be like a ballpoint pen drying up in the middle of a sketch.
Right.
Which has happened. Yes.
And then you're trying to get it, and then all of a sudden it works again. You're like, shit.
Right.
All the ink came back at once.
You write on something softer to hopefully it'll get back that ink.
Yeah.
What do you got, Matt?
Another pumpkin? Are you kidding me? It's January.
I still have a pumpkin, but so this guy,
Wow.
I wanted to kind of start with the word that thinking disgruntled. So he's got that look like what the what'd you do? So he's kind of starting with that. And then he's gonna be zombified. I wish I had better lighting in here. Sorry.
It looks juicy, man. Those folds are great.
Yeah.
He's gonna be a big fat bastard. But you know what? When we were talking earlier, we're like, wouldn't it be great if we had voluptuous? And I was like, oh, a fat zombie would be, So.
Oh yeah, that's true.
So he's gonna be kind of voluptuous eventually, but yeah,
He's looking great. Are you saying the lighting doesn't look good? I think it's catching it.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah,
We need to up your production values there, Matt.
That's right. I'll work on it.
Yes.
I got
all that Carvers and Creators money. See, put those super chats in. Let's get Matt.
Right. Let's
get Matt better lighting. Somehow.
We're gonna start a GoFundMe for Matt.
Yeah, those folds are great. The light's really wrapping around them.
Yeah.
Paul and I are enamored. I swear to God, I don't know what it is when it comes to these pumpkins or squash or whatever we work on. Like the folds, the wrinkles, the mushy parts of your face. I swear I look at them all day, every day. Paul and I have talked about 100 times. I'll walk in the grocery store and I'll be going through, guess what, the produce aisle, because I'm going there anyway, because I got to find one of these. But I'll see some poor bastard or female bastard in there, and I'll look at her face or his face, and I'm like, okay, that nose is gigantic. What? And it's not that I want to make fun of it. I think but I'm like, I gotta just capture that in my brain. Can I just
right?
Because they just have that form, or what? Even if it's a chin or a fold or something like that, a wrinkle. And I don't know what it is. I'm just like I get drawn to them, and I want to make more. Everything I would make would have big, fat, chubby wrinkles and gross growths and stuff like that. If it was up to me. But the wheel sometimes, dictates otherwise.
That's right.
But this guy will be
No.
a zombie, but he'll be a well-fed zombie. But he'll still be disgruntled because you can never make him happy. You know,
That's right.
Right, he's actually disgruntled because he can't lose weight and he can't figure out why.
It's water weight. It's water weight. You know,
It's a classic zombie conundrum.
He's got to switch to those low-calorie brains,
Right.
the low-fat
Maybe
brains.
go to animal brains. You know, humans,
Yeah.
all
He
cholesterol.
probably can't say it anymore, but he could eat blonde brains. Is that like offensive to blonde?
Ooh.
Oh, that's bad.
Well, I don't even know what I can say anymore.
Oh, man.
But I'm fine.
So we're almost at that time, but I wanted to show some more of
Yeah.
I mean, so
No.
amazing.
Oh, thanks.
I mean, this work is absolutely outstanding. I mean, it's again photorealistic. This is very hard to
Oh,
tell.
thanks.
It's so amazing.
Oh, Jack.
I know, Jack.
See, now that's like Matt, like you were saying, it's such a candid shot of such an absolutely terrifying character.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it is. It's
I-
like you were there standing next to him. You took a little photo and he wasn't looking, kind of thing. That's the part I like.
Did you do that? Now I know you can paint with a mouse. Did you do this one with like you were at McDonald's and just decided to do it out of ketchup because you can? Like,
Yeah.
like what can't you do?
A placemat. He turned a placemat over a minute.
Right.
I covered the whole napkin with ketchup, and then I removed areas I didn't want the ketchup, and
Of course.
that appeared.
Oh, I wouldn't even doubt it. Like if you told me that story with a straight face, I'd be like, you know, it's just another feather in your cap. I gotta be honest at this point.
But I think that is a paint splat that my son did on a piece of paper that I scanned, and then I used that as the background.
Wow.
So good.
And I think I did do a removal of some of it to create the highlights. You know, I did
Oh, wow.
instead of
I
an
can't-
additive, I did a subtractive.
But the beauty.
I'm
of
not
it is-
even wrong. I can't believe I
No,
wasn't
you-
even wrong. I'm not
This
even
is-
wrong.
This is made out of ketchup, Paul. But the beauty of it is that's Jack. That's him, and like instantly recognizable. That's the beauty. I mean, the talent. It just pours out of you. It's like every single one of your portraits and your pictures that you got. That again, go to his damn site. What are you watching the show for? You know, but it's
Oh, there you go.
It's like you capture them so beautifully.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, obviously American Werewolf is probably my favorite horror movie of all time.
Yeah.
Mine too. By
Yeah. So
leaps and bounds.
but I try to go in for those kind of, capture the character, like kind of the essence of the character, and also the emotional moment. I try to capture too. You know, that's the moment where he's like, "You made me miss," and it's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is kind of the companion piece to the other with Jack and David sitting there looking like, "Oh."
Huh? Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
I try to
Oh.
connect the viewers with the eyes
Oh my god.
on my stuff. You
Yeah.
know, it's that moment where he's realizing everything is bullshit, you know, in the movie.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
but yeah, I try to find those moments, you know, like the falling down piece too.
Oh yeah, that one was amazing to
Yeah,
me because
I have that in here.
Oh, you captured
Oh.
exactly that anger and that. I mean, in one.
Wow.
Oh,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I saw the trailer for Joker, and I was so blown away by the trailer that I did a freeze frame on that part of the scene where he's in the elevator, and I'm like, I haven't even seen the movie. I don't know if it's good, but like I was so taken aback by just that moment. I'm like, okay, I'm going to try to capture this, and I painted it, and it was one of my more popular pieces.
So get this. We had a guest, John Caglione Jr. He from his brush to Heath Ledger's face.
That's Heath Ledger. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he did the makeup on Heath, and one of the things that he was talking about was like getting to actually meet him and talk to him, and it was just, you know, of course we're just like fanboys, we're like, oh my god,
Yeah.
But you know, to he had to give different concepts of how that art was going to look, and then the ability to capture the actor in the makeup in the moment with the lighting, it's just staggering to me. I don't know.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, and this piece, I did it just because I felt compelled to do it, and I was inspired, and I did it and put it out in the world. And then I got contacted by some people that were putting together the end credits for the Robert Downey Jr. movie, Doolittle.
Okay.
I don't know if you've seen the movie, but at the end credits, there's all these portraits of the cast and characters from the movie.
Oh.
And so that led to me getting that job, because I saw this and we need a portrait guy that can paint quick. And they're like, was this painted digitally? I'm like, yeah, it was. Like, oh no, that's great. That's great. Because it doesn't look like it was painted digitally. And
No.
we need a bunch of art painted very quickly. And so I landed this job, and then shortly after that is when I decided to go freelance again.
Nice.
Wow. Well, Terry, I'm going to say one thing, because you've talked about it a couple of times, and I'll point it out.
Sure.
When you talk about you're painting digitally, and you almost have this like, well, it's painted digitally, almost as a second. It is so amazing. I mean, I don't care the medium. I mean, when I see your stuff, I don't think, is it digital? Is it not? Is it lesser or more? If it's
right.
I really honestly, you have the ability, like in The Last Joker or this, to capture. Doesn't matter the medium. It's like it's the vision. It's the actor. It's the emotion. It's the the lighting. It's anyway. So to me it's like never diminished. My daughter in art school, she does a lot of stuff in digital, and I'm just blown away by that, or pencil, or whatever you do. Anyway, just
I appreciate that. Thank you. I was the champion for digital painters for a long time. Like, hey, digital art is still art. It's each stroke I'm doing by hand. I'm not
right.
Just
different medium.
Now with the AI stuff, you can just click a button and you.
Get it.
But sorry, didn't mean to bring that up. That's a whole other thing.
That's a whole other show. Yeah.
That's a whole but that depends on what you're doing in AI too, I think.
Right.
Like if you get into actual painting, like something that you're doing, that's bad news in my opinion. But some of the more funny scenery stuff that they do with real photos, and then they go in and tweak it, I think is pretty funny. And a lot of background stuff, right, Mick? And then you're saying like you can do a whole bunch of background stuff and get that out of the way.
Yeah,
the painting stuff
true.
I would say it's more like for composition, like to kind of figure out what it can be, and then you still have to be an artist to make it work, and then tweak it, make it look realistic and stuff like that. So I still think there's you still have to be an artist at heart, and it's just not going to be for people to walk in like, I'm an artist now. Although I used to say that about people that said they had Photoshop on their laptop. They would be that arrogant, They're like, "Oh, I'm an artist just like you," and I go, "I'll be the judge of that."
You're right. Show me.
I can't believe that's a painting.
Yes.
This was for.
Oh, sorry.
The last one was that's from Doolittle as well.
Oh yeah.
That's one of the portraits.
Fantastic.
But,
and hey. Gotta end with some Mr. T.
That's right. I pity the fool that don't watch this podcast.
yeah, exactly. You have one shot.
But yeah, and I've kind of gotten into recently, like just doing colored ballpoint pen art, and just
That's great though.
Fantastic.
Having them be their own thing.
That's not pencil. That's colored ballpoint pen. Okay.
Yeah.
Right there on the left. I didn't even realize that it's the red and.
I see them. Yeah. Okay, you can see it.
Right. I didn't even notice that at first. That's fantastic.
And so, like a lot of these pen sketches, all of them actually, I don't do any pre-pencil sketching with them. I just.
Oh, nice.
So,
wow.
But sometimes they don't turn out quite as well. But.
So you did this one like yesterday.
Yeah,
pretty much.
Maybe a couple weeks ago. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I've been watching the A-Team with my wife and son lately. He's 9, so he's been enjoying that.
Wow.
And I have too.
I just love that they used to drug him with the milk to get him to fly.
Oh God, yeah. Or sometimes they'd hit him over the head. Like, all right, get him on the plane. Like, geez.
Wow.
Whatever it took, back then,
Yeah.
it's all right.
He's like brain damaged and a drug addict.
Oh, goodness.
So the brain damage was from when he fought Balboa.
Oh, that's true.
Yes, yes.
Well, that goes without saying. Yeah.
Exactly.
But still the best Rocky there was, by the way. That
Yeah.
that has to go down as the best one. Anyway.
No, for sure. That's a great one. Yeah.
Yep. And then he was in WrestleMania 1 and 2, and then it was all over.
Well,
not yet. He's still alive, Mickey.
He is. He actually worked out at the gym when I was in Encino. So I used to see him.
that's fun. Oh, that's fun. Yeah, cool.
Well, if you want to see more of Terry's work, go to his Instagram page. You also have a Big Cartel page as well, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
just basically Wolfinger.bigcartel. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Fantastic.
Yeah,
So
there's
please
so
follow and buy his work. Here's where we are on the interwebs. We're on Twitter, Facebook, Internet, Instagram, YouTube, Twitch, and TikTok. Guys, any last word before we sign off for this week?
Yeah,
Thank you,
thank
Terry.
you again, Terry. Thank you very much. This was a pleasure,
Oh.
man. Huge fan.
Thank you, guys. The pleasure was all mine. It was really an honor to be on your show, and you guys you're awesome at what you do as well.
Oh, thank you very much.
Well,
Yeah, of course.
We'll take it right now. But honestly, like looking at all your stuff, we're just honored to be to be able to hang out with you and chat and kind of again, we'll call you a friend at this point. Now.
Yeah, please. Please. Yeah, I consider you guys friends too. Yeah, you guys are awesome.
Thank you so
Very-
much. Will you be at Monsterpalooza this year?
Yes, that is the plan. You guys do?
Yeah, we'll be there.
We'll do
We don't know what the
awesome.
hell we're doing there. We're just going to be doing what we're doing right now. But
Nice. Are you
Yeah.
guys have a booth or
We
you
do.
doing demos? Okay.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's what
yeah.
we're going to do. We're going to do demos, and we're going to kind of a lot of back and forth with the crowd, and we'll
Right.
have live carvings at the end of every day, and just have fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I don't have someone helping me out in my booth, I will definitely try to come by. But
Oh, we'll be stopping by. We'll
Yeah,
definitely-
okay,
exactly.
cool.
We'll come by
Please,
you.
yeah, you better.
And maybe
Make it
we'll share a red blend at the end of the night. I don't know.
Oh yeah.
At the Sheraton,
Yeah,
the Sheraton bar there. We'll find a way.
Yes.
Well, I'm sure they got some good wine over there. Yeah.
Yeah, much better than I have, I'm sure.
Well, this is just what I had with me. So yeah.
Look forward to hanging out with you in person. This is gonna be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's gonna be cool.
Thank you
I
so
hope
much.
I answered enough questions. I know I kind
No,
of
no.
blabbed
Yeah.
I'd
on.
love to have you back if you'd grace us with your presence, but we'll definitely see you at Monsterpalooza.
Oh, I would love to come back anytime, guys.
Yeah, maybe next time we'll have you, take on the wheel, and you can do yourself a disgruntled
digital?
zombie.
I would
You
love to,
probably
like a
finish school.
sculpted or
Well, no, you can. That's the fun. Is like you can draw. You can do your pen. You can do a digital. The nice part about this, like the artists, it's kind of whatever medium that they're comfortable with. Some folks will do stuff in clay. John Fuller, who's been on a number of times, he'll throw stuff on in clay and make a mask while we're talking, and then other ones will do something in pencil or sculpt or whatever. And it's again no pressure in actually finishing anything, which is the best part because we just we're hanging out the whole time having a cold one. So
yeah.
All right, so we'll see you next Thursday with another Carvers and Creators. Thanks for joining, everyone. Take care. Good night.